Yeah.
Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Stella. I'd like to specially thank everyone that has subscribed to this channel, and to those seeing my video for the first time, kindly subscribe. Okay, so let's jump right into what we have. Now we're going to be learning how to finish an open slit. The pattern that you need is just your basic skirt block, and we're going to be focusing more on the back. So this is my skirt block. All right, this is the back. Like I said, we're focusing on the back. So I added my 2 inches sewing allowance on the side, and I have my 1 inch zip allowance added. So I have my 1 inch zip allowance added on the center back. So here's my waistline, hip length, knee length, and the full length of the skirt. All right, so the length of my slit is 22 inches, and the width of my slit is 2 inches. So our slit is 2 inches wide. Okay, now I'll go ahead and take off the pattern paper, and we'll proceed to stitch down. So we're going to be doing our normal skirt sewing. All right, so we're using a loose stitch from the waist length to the hip length, because my zip is stopping on the hip length. And from the hip length, I'll use a tight stitch all the way to where my slit is starting. So from this line that I'm pointing at, I'll come down by ½ inch. Okay, and from that ½ inch, I will use a loose stitch all the way to the hem. This is our normal standard way of sewing our skirt. So I'll go ahead and make my mark, and here we have it. So I have my 1 inch zip allowance marked on the center back of the skirt. All right, so I have it marked on the lining, and I also have it marked on the fashion fabric. Now let's look at the lining for better clarity. So here is the lining. Now all I explained on the pattern paper is the same thing I did here. Okay, so I went ahead to transfer all my markings to the lining, and I don't know if my chalk is clear enough, but from my waist to the hip length, I made a mark there because that's where my zip is stopping. And from there, we're going to use a normal tight stitch to ½ inch below the slit length. Now, if you don't know where your slit is supposed to be, or the length of your slit, I usually do 5 inches below my knee length. So from there, I will go ahead and use a loose stitch all the way to the hem. Now the reason for this loose stitches is so that by the time I press it open, I'll see my crease line. That's the whole essence of me using a loose stitch to close the slit. So I'll take this to my sewing machine, and I'll go ahead and stitch as I have explained. And here we have it. So you can see my stitches. Now from my waist to the hip length, what I have there is a temporal stitch, which I'll still take off. And I have a normal tight stitch all the way to ½ inch below my slit length. Okay, and I stitch it down to the hem just the same way that I explained it. I repeated the same thing on the lace. All right, so here's the lace. Now you can see how I pressed my stitches open and flat. This is the best way for you to achieve a neat result at the end. Okay, now at this point, you are advised to do your shaping and mark it on both your lining and your fashion fabric, now that you still have your fabric flat. Moving on, the next thing we need to do is to go ahead and trace out the edges of our slit. Now that we have it flat, I'll go ahead and use my pencil to trace the edges the same way it is. Just trace it round. And I have already done this, so I'll go ahead and open it for us to see. All right, so I don't know if you can see it. I traced it with pencil. Now I'll go ahead and just highlight it for us to see it better. Like I said, simply open up your slit and trace out the edges. Okay, now here are the lines. I simply traced it out. Now after you have traced it, you will need to come inwards by 0.75 and you make a mark there. So you first trace your slit and you come inwards by 0.75. So I'll also go ahead and highlight this 0.75 that we just came inwards with. I'll highlight it. Now you need your lines as straight as possible. Remember, all your markings are on the lining. Okay, you don't have business with the fashion fabric at this point. Now from the top part, I came down by 0.75 as well. So I'll go ahead and repeat this same thing on the other side of the slit. Remember, after you trace out the edge, you will come inwards by 0.75 and you also connect it using a straight line. So I'll go ahead and connect this and we will continue. Here we have it. Now from the top part also, I'll come down by 0.75, just like what we did on the other side. Okay, this is it. Now we will proceed to cut this out. So kindly pay attention to this. Remember, all our markings for now is on the lining. You don't have business with your fashion fabric. Now I'll come in with my scissors and we're going to cut on the 0.75 line. We're cutting on the 0.75 line that we came in was with. Permit me for my repetition, because if you cut on the traced edge line that you have there, you're going to mess up your lining. So you come in by 0.75 and you cut on that 0.75 line. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut this out. Now at the top part, we're also cutting on the 0.75 line that we came down with. I know why I'm emphasizing all this. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut this out and we will proceed. Here we have it. I have cut this out. Now for the final time, we are cutting on the lining and not the fashion fabric, please. Okay, so this is it. We don't need this tiny piece anymore, so I'll go ahead and discard it. Now I'll come in with the lace, and here it is. So I'll go ahead and open it up. Now if you remember, we still have our loose stitch on the slit, so I'll go ahead and take off the loose stitches and we will continue. Now here we have it. I have taken off the loose stitch, so you can see the crease line. So this is the whole essence of stitching it down in the first place. Now I'll go ahead and open up the lining and we're going to place it so the wrong side of the lining is going to face the wrong side of the lace. Okay, now what is on top is the right side of the lining. Now I'll go ahead and just arrange it properly. The easiest way for you to arrange your lining on your lace is to go ahead and align your notches. So in my usual practice, I have my notches on the knee length. So I'll go ahead and use my pin to pin down the knee length notch on the lining to that of the lace. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm simply aligning my notches on the knee length and I'll pin it down. Since I cut both of them equally, now this should be the easiest way to make sure that your fabric and your lining is equal. Okay, now I have pinned them down on the knee length. So I'll just proceed to arrange the rest of the lining. All right, now this is important. Another key thing to note is that your lining and your fashion fabric must be equal by the sides, especially if you cut them together. And ideally you should have cut them together, so they should be equal by the sides. All right, now I'm done arranging it. So we're going to go ahead and open up the lining by 0.5 inch. And I have already done that. So my lining is open on the center back by 0.5 inch. Okay, and the lace is still fully closed. Now I will proceed to notch the angles. You remember that we came down by 0.75 from the top part. Now I'll go ahead and just notch the angles a little. So you're just going inwards by 0.25. That should be the extent of your notch. All right, now I will go ahead and pin down the lining and the lace on the center back line. Now in doing this, you need to ensure that the joining line of the lining and that of the lace meets. So the two of them must be on the same line and you pin it down. The essence of pinning it down is so that by the time you're done, there will not be any form of tension around the center back. Okay, this is one of the issues that you will have if you don't pin them down. Okay, now I will go ahead and flip the lining. We will need to sew down the lining and the fashion fabric on 0.25. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to go ahead and join it using 0.25. Now, but before I take this to my machine, I will first pin it down on 0.25 so that I will see the result first before sewing down permanently. Okay, so Your lining should be down. By the time you flip it, it should be down by 0.75, the same figure that we used to make our marking. Okay, so I will still go ahead and notch it a bit more so that that place can relax well. Now I will try and just align those edges, so the edge of your lace and the edge of your lining must meet. Now I'll go ahead and pin it down on 0.25. remember, we came in once by 0.75, but now we are pinning on 0.25. So I will go ahead and try it out to see if the edges meet. Now I'll give you another pointer. The edge of your lining and the edge of your lace must be equal on the sides. So the two sides must be equal. If the lining is shorter, just know that you're beginning to run into problems. Okay, so so the two of them must be equal. Now I will go ahead and sew that. Okay, this tiny piece that we have on top, the moment we are done, we'll go ahead and tuck it in like this. So you can use your hemming gum to finish that up, or you can simply tack, or you can sew. Okay, now I'll go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side. Remember what I said, the side of your lace and that of the lining must be equal. Okay, and we'll go ahead and stitch it down on 0.25. Afterwards, I will finish up the top part. So I'll go ahead and do this and we will see what it looks like. And here we have it. I have it joined. Okay, now you can see how relaxed it's looking. Now let's take a look at the inside. So like I explained, I joined it using 0.25. I repeated the same thing on this other side, and if you pay attention, you will see that the lining and the lace are equal on the sides. Now you need to press this flat. Okay, now let's look at the top part. So like I explained, this is it. I simply tucked it in and I pressed it down. So you can either use your needle and thread and tack it down, or you can use your hemming gum, cut a little piece and you iron it down. Okay, so let me show us the hemming gum so that you know what it looks like. So this is the hemming gum. Now you can go ahead and cut out a little strip and tuck it in there, then you press it down with your pressing iron, or you can just sew, but I will be sewing it down. Now let's look at it on the right side. So can you see how flat this is looking? Now the beauty of this method of finishing your slit is when your client wears it and it opens up a bit on the back, you will still see the fashion fabric, okay, and not the lining first. All right, now I'll go ahead and finish up this outfit and we'll look at it. And here we have it. I'm done with it. It's actually a dress. All right, so I'm done with it. You can see the beauty of the slit, okay, the finishing method. So I'll go ahead and turn it to the inside so that we can see what it looks like as well. And here we have it. I have it turned. You can see how flat the slit area is. I've also gone ahead to sew down that tiny part up like I explained it. Now here we have it. We are done with this. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you. Kindly subscribe to my channel and drop your comments or your remarks in the comment section, and you're sure I'll respond to them as swiftly as possible. And lest I forget, the detailed video on the drafting and sewing of this beautiful dress you're seeing will be up on the channel very soon. All right, so till we meet again in my next video. Bye.